My name is Beth Jones, and I am the Division Chief of the University of New Mexico Physical Therapy Program here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I also happen to teach gross anatomy. I've been teaching here since 2003, and I've been teaching anatomy the whole time. And for 11 years, I taught 2 gross anatomy classes, one to the physical therapists and then one to the NDs and the PAs. When the students do a build, it's primarily muscles and ligaments. Occasionally we'll add a nerve in so that they can see that relationship of how it crosses underneath the muscle. But when you're in a graduate program, you don't have the time to do that intricate amount of hands-on. So my anatomy in clay sessions are 2 hours at the most. It's like, do this. And in fact, I'm not really particular about it being very artistic. It can be strings. It can just be a tube and show me where it goes and how the muscles cross each other. But it really is the process of doing it that is what I'm after. I'm not after the end result, really. My goal, and unfortunately with the pandemic, they've had to do this on their own at home. But when I do it in person, my goal is to look for misconceptions and correct it. You can sit there and say, well, this muscle attaches from this feature to that feature, and you can memorize that. But when you actually have a 3D model that you have to put it on, it's amazing what they thought they knew is maybe not correct. And so that's a learning process too, that it all of a sudden makes sense to why we have an order of how we put things on when we're doing the clay anatomy. But the big difference of cadaver dissection from clay is that we start on the skin, we peel off the skin, and you don't know what's under the skin, and then you have to kind of explore to figure out what's under the skin. And when it's the first time you've ever done it, you're very cautious because you don't want to cut anything. And so we explore from superficial to deep. With anatomy in clay, we explore from deep to superficial. When the pandemic hit, I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to dissect. And I knew that the best thing I had was the clay models. If I had nothing else, I had that. So we went ahead and made sure that we had a clay model for every student, and we actually have 4 different models for the students. A couple of years back, some students were really struggling trying to figure out that aspect of the forearm and hand. And I said, hey, I have a model. You want to try it? And they tried it. They're like, oh, that was so helpful. So doing the clay model helps you understand depth and how different muscles relate to each other. So how anatomy in clay helps with graduate school? Again, it is just another modality. It's taking the same information and presenting it in a different way. Well, by having different modalities in a graduate school, not just dissection going from the skin in, but having something where they build from the inside out, we now approach a different type of learner. So while some students love dissection, some do not. And some love doing the clay modeling and some do not. So we all have to stretch a little bit. And that's how I use it in graduate school, to stretch and take the concepts that I think that they need for clinical practice and see it in a different way. It's out of your comfort zone. The guy who told me he hadn't done anything this creative in his whole life, that was an out of comfort zone thing. And as we know, if we get out of our comfort zones, we stretch and we learn.